Well, starting from him, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Jammu in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir on Tuesday. Prime Minister Modi laid the foundation stones of multiple development projects worth around $4 billion in Jammu. The projects relate to several sectors including health, education, rail, road, aviation, petroleum, civic infrastructure, among others. The PM dedicated to the nation various rail projects in Jammu and Kashmir, including the new rail line between Banihal Khari Sumbar Sangaldan and the newly electrified Baramulla Shingar Banihal Sangaldan section. He also flagged off the first electric train in the valley and the train service between Sangaldan station and Baramulla station. Prime Minister Modi also distributed appointment letters to about 1,500 new government recruits in Jammu and Kashmir. And he also interacted with beneficiaries of various government schemes as part of the Viksit Bharat Viksit Jammu program. Addressing the public gathering in Jammu, Prime Minister Modi said love of the people of Kashmir is a great blessing for all of us.
सिर्फ अपने परिवार की सोचने वाले लोग कभी आपके परिवार की चिंता नहीं करेंगे। मुझे संतोष है कि जम्मू कश्मीर को इस परिवारवादी राजनीति से मुक्ति मिल रही है। भाई और बहनों, जम्मू कश्मीर को विकसित बनाने के लिए हमारी सरकार गरीब, किसान, युवा शक्ति और नारी शक्ति पर सबसे ज्यादा फोकस कर रही है।
The Kremlin has said Russian President Vladimir Putin hasn't seen late opposition leader Alexei Navalny's wife's video, claiming that her husband was poisoned. Russia's Dmitry Peskov chose not to comment on Yulia Navalnaya's claim, given that she had recently been widowed. Peskov, however, emphasized that allegations blaming Putin for Navalny's death are absolutely unfounded and obnoxious. Former US President Donald Trump has made his first public comment on the death of Russia's most prominent opposition leader Alexei Navalny. In a social media post, Trump compared his alleged political troubles with Navalny's mysterious death and said his sudden death has made him more aware of what is happening in his country. Earlier, President Joe Biden directly blamed Putin for Navalny's death in a penal colony north of the Arctic Circle. Also, Russia's Federal Security Service has detained a woman with dual Russian-US citizenship in the city of Yekaterinburg. The arrest was made on suspicions of treason for raising funds for Ukraine's armed forces. The Los Angeles resident had allegedly been collecting funds for a Ukrainian organization, the ultimate beneficiary of which was the Ukrainian army. The Ukrainian military has bolstered defenses near the city of Avdiivka, which is now under Russian control. Ukraine's military commander has said the troops are taking up new defensive positions in the east in order to repel Russia's offensive. Meanwhile, Sweden has approved its 15th and largest military aid to Ukraine, worth $682 million. The latest package includes maritime assault vessels and underwater arms such as mines and subsea drones. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has embarked on what could potentially be his final opportunity to halt his extradition from Britain to the United States following over 13 years of legal battles in English courts. His lawyers will try to overturn a 2022 judgment by a British court that approved Assange's extradition to the US. Due to his ill health, Assange will not be attending his extradition hearing. His wife warned last week that his health was in decline physically and mentally. Washington aims to bring Assange to trial on 18 charges linked to WikiLeaks' significant disclosure of confidential US military documents and diplomatic cables. DD India's John Beaver has sent this dispatch from Bristol.
Julian Assange's legal team are really pinning their hopes on this hearing going their way. They do have one final card they can play if things don't work out for them the way they want. They could go to an even higher court in Europe, but they would need to be quick doing that, because if this doesn't go their way, then in theory Julian Assange could be extradited to the UK, from the UK to the US very quickly indeed. What we've been hearing from court this morning from Julian Assange's legal team is that this is a politically motivated extradition, and that the US is trying to get him in front of a court in the US because they are embarrassed about this leak, that there was this leak exposed wrongdoing and in fact illegality by the US. So his legal team are trying to say that this extradition is politically motivated. They've looked at other similar cases that have happened in the past in the UK where extradition has been blocked because it has been judged to have been for political reasons. So that's the argument his legal team are using.
Now, the latest from the Israel-Hamas conflict, Israeli forces killed dozens of gunmen in Gaza's southern hub city of Khan Yunis over the last 24 hours. The operation included an airstrike by IDF troops on a Hamas arms cache that set off secondary explosions. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to continue the offensive until total victory against Hamas after it attacked Israel on the 7th of October last year. The UN Security Council will vote on a new draft resolution on Tuesday calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The resolution was drafted by the United States calling for a temporary ceasefire and warns Israel not to launch a ground offensive in Rafah. The draft document was prepared by Algeria more than 2 weeks ago. The US, Egypt, Israel and Qatar have held negotiations on a potential Israel-Hamas truce and the exchange of captives held by the Hamas. The United Nations has allocated $100 million to boost poorly funded humanitarian crises. The United Nations said the funding, drawn from the United Nations Central Emergency Response Fund, is to support humanitarian crises in 7 countries, including the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan and Syria. As the decreased funding for CERF in 2023 was the lowest level since 2018, and the dire reality that donor funding is not keeping up with the rapidly rising demands of humanitarian needs. India has contributed an additional $1 million to the IBSA fund, bolstering South-South cooperation. This is a reaffirmation of the principle of development of the people, by the people and for the people. IBSA is a joint body of India, Brazil and South African nation for Poverty and Hunger Alleviation Fund. Each of these countries contribute $1 million annually to IBSA fund in the spirit of partnership, support for global South nations. With the additional funding, India's contribution to IBSA has now crossed $18 million since the fund was set up in 2004. IBSA fund supports the projects that are concrete expressions of solidarity. IBSA is focused on food security, health intervention, safe drinking water. The contribution presented to the Director of the UN Office of South-South Cooperation on Tuesday underscores India's commitment to collaborative progress and shared prosperity. The UN marks World Day of Social Justice today, that is on Wednesday, highlighting the urgent need for global collaboration to bridge global divides and build global alliances as inequalities over the world worsen. DD India's Jessica Taneja has more.
Despite a seemingly resilient 2023 labour market, the United Nations painted a grim picture today on World Day of Social Justice. The spectre of instability, economic woes and climate change looms large, threatening to derail progress and widen the chasm of inequality, leaving millions behind. While the global job market showed no signs of recovery last year, millions are still falling further behind. An extra 2 million job seekers will flood the market in 2024, pushing global unemployment up from 5.1% to 5.2%. The picture worsens when we zoom in. 241 million workers still fight extreme poverty, and 423 million grapple with moderate poverty, struggling to make ends meet. The UN's message is stark and clear. Solutions require a multidimensional approach. Governments must join hands in strengthening domestic economies and fostering regional collaboration. While World Day of Social Justice serves as a powerful reminder, the fractured social contract needs mending. Moreover, education, the cornerstone of individual empowerment and societal development, needs to be prioritized even more. Jessica Taneja for DD India.
The European Union is aiming to get its 13th package of sanctions against Russia over the line by the 2-year anniversary of the full-scale offensive in Ukraine. The 27 European Union foreign ministers discussed the conflict in Brussels on Monday. 26 of the 27 member countries joined in support of the sanctions. It would complement a €50 billion financial support package for Kyiv and a move to set aside profits from Russia's immobilized sovereign assets. Hungary remained the sole skeptic, which said imposing more European Union sanctions only hurts the bloc's economy. The EU foreign ministers also reiterated their calls for ceasefire in the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict.
The 26 expressed its support to this statement and produced a new one, which is basically the same one that I issued during the weekend, but with an additional statement, additional paragraph, which is to require an immediate humanitarian pause that would lead to a sustainable ceasefire, to the unconditional release of hostages, and to the provision of humanitarian assistance.
The second CII India-Europe Business and Sustainability Conclave kick-started in New Delhi on Tuesday. The two-day conclave aims at putting forward the business perspectives and priorities and to deliberate upon the opportunities and challenges for businesses in India and Europe. The conclave holds a great importance for both the countries as Europe is India's second largest trading partner and solely contributes 21.8% share in India's total exports. Bilateral trade between India and Europe in 2022-23 has been $185.16 billion. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is also set to address the event. In fact, let's now take you across to that event itself, where Dr. S. Jaishankar is now present and about to address.
The relationship has been. But it is not just a relationship with a continent or even a union. We also have made an effort to engage European countries in smaller groupings, and the presence of my colleagues from the Baltics is a reminder that we will be holding our Nordic-Baltic meeting in the coming days. And I hope, as I discussed with my colleague with Greece, that perhaps one day soon we would hold a similar gathering with countries of the Mediterranean. Now, if I could really, as Indians and Europeans gather in this room and others who wish us well, address myself to what is it that drives the world economy, because that is really why we have assembled here today. And all of you would agree that there are 6 broad elements of that. One, of course, is the production and consumption. The second is connectivity and logistics. The third is technology. The fourth, increasingly realized today, is of demographics. The fifth is of values and comforts, because countries and societies who bond with each other more closely obviously find it much more easy to do business as well. And finally, to the extent we create an architecture, a framework, it is much easier for us to do business and promote economic partnerships. So today, some of the thoughts I present before you are from those perspectives of business, of sustainability, of creating partnerships. And let me start with production and consumption. I think we were reminded by the earlier speakers about the importance of concluding a free trade agreement with the European Union, as also with EFTA, not just a free trade agreement with the EU, but also one relating to geographical indicators and to investment protection. And these agreements, these negotiations resumed after an 8-year gap between 2013 resumed in 2021. Now, why is this important? It is important because you can already see that our trade levels have been growing steadily, but there is a well-founded realization that we need really a more positive framework for that to accelerate. Last year, 2022, our trade was about, I think, 120 billion euros in terms of goods, and our services trade actually has been growing very robustly at about 30%. But part of the reason why we need a much smoother interface between our economies is that it's important for the European Union to prepare for the India that is to come. And what is that India which is to come? Today, India has a GDP of about 3.75 trillion dollars. That GDP by the end of the decade would be 7.3. By the time we are into our 100th year of independence, is estimated at 30 trillion. And according to Goldman Sachs, by 2075, we would be at 52.5 trillion. So that's an arithmetical way of saying that India is going to be an increasingly significant economy, the second largest by 2075, but certainly the third largest by the end of this decade in national terms. And that is something which the European Union has to take into account. Now, the size of the economy is one. You can also see it in terms of growth. If one looks at India's trade in the last decade, from below about $570 billion, it has grown to almost double that amount to $1.18 trillion in 2022. And the growth in trade is only likely to increase in the pace of it is only likely to increase in the coming years. Now, I mentioned those two, but there is a larger shift which is occurring in India, larger transformation, and that is reflected in making it easier to do business, in making it easier for living, in the infrastructure changes which are captured by our Gati Shakti initiative, in the digital changes which are driven by the digital delivery programs we have, and not least by the enormous talent pool whose quality and size is growing by the day.
Well, there you saw a part of the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar's address at the event that the CII has been hosting in the national capital. This is related to India-Europe sustainability of business, and he talked about how not only India-EU relations have been strong, although he said that he is cognizant of the fact that India and Europe need to do a free trade agreement and other agreements as well, like the EFTA. But he said that Europe needs to be prepared for the India that is to come, which is growing very, very rapidly and is going through a transformation that has been unprecedented. Now, as India's national capital gears up to host Raisina Dialogue from the 21st of this month, which is tomorrow, till the 23rd, leaders have started arriving to attend the event. Sweden's Foreign Minister Tobias Billström arrived in India on Tuesday to attend the Raisina Dialogue, while Latvia's Foreign Minister Krišjānis Kariņš also reached New Delhi for the event. Earlier, Greek Foreign Minister Georgios Gerapetraitis also arrived in India early on Tuesday for the annual Raisina Dialogue. Let me now take you across to my colleague Jessica Taneja in the newsroom to talk more about the upcoming Raisina Dialogue. Hi, Jessica. What's on top of the agenda for this key foreign policy exchange of views and ideas this time around?
Well, this is the 9th edition of the Raisina Dialogues. You remember it started in 2016. It was quite a success back then, and it has seen a lot of increasing participation even now. We're told more than 2,500 participants for the next 3 days. We'll be talking about various issues. It also includes more than 100 representatives from more than 100 countries. That will include foreign ministers. There are other defense ministers as well. You see on the sidelines of the Raisina Dialogue, Gautam, there is also conversation and initiations being taken place when it comes to more collaboration in terms of security. So security chiefs are also in town to discuss that, and the roundtable is ongoing. With the Raisina Dialogue, this time, as you know, the keynote speaker is the Greek Prime Minister, who will be addressing the forum tomorrow. Apart from that, the key initiatives and the key topics taking forward, of course, would be of geopolitical importance. You look at what's happening to the theatre of war in the Middle East at this point. Of course, the Ukraine crisis still sort of steps in and requires some sort of intervention. Apart from that, looking at how trade would work and looking at how India is progressing and its goal to become a developed nation by 2047 has got the attention of many countries. We're expecting a lot of announcements to be made and discussions that forward not only India's agenda but an integrated global community that is able to produce better and more effectively.
Right. Now, the Greek Prime Minister is the chief guest for the dialogue this time around, but he's also here for a bilateral visit. What can we expect there?
Well, his visit comes at a time, and if you recall Prime Minister's visit to Greece last year, when India and Greece became strategic partners, and that was a big uplift in the relationship between the two. While the Greek Prime Minister visits tomorrow, as I pointed out earlier, he will be the keynote speaker at India's premier event for geopolitics, which is a Raisina Dialogue. He'll be the keynote speaker there, and thereafter we're expecting a lot of things on the agenda. For example, maritime security. The two countries have cooperated in that for a very long time. They're also looking forward to increase their participation in intelligence sharing. So we're looking at that as well, although the details of that are sketchy at this point. Also, the India-Middle East economic corridor, Greece is an important partner, remember, because of its port and railway links. So that perhaps could see some movement forward, and the rest, of course, as we get to know tomorrow, Gautam.
All right. Thanks, Jessica, for joining us with that update. Now, tensions continue to rise across the sensitive Taiwan Strait as China increases patrolling following fisherman's death. China's Coast Guard triggered panic among Taiwanese people by boarding a tourist boat. This is part of Beijing's plan to set up law enforcement activity around the Taiwan-controlled island of Kinmen. This comes following the death of two Chinese nationals fleeing Taiwan's Coast Guard, having entered into waters too close to Kinmen, which has a military base, back on the 14th of this month. However, the head of Taiwan's Ocean Affairs Council has said it was common for Chinese and Taiwanese tourist boats to accidentally enter the other side's waters. The Indian Navy's largest multilateral naval exercise, Milan 2024, has commenced in Vizag with an impressive lineup of warships from Indian and foreign navies participating in the harbour phase. The Indian Navy conducted an operational demo rehearsal and showcased the delegates the capabilities of the Indian Navy and its Eastern Naval Command. Let's get you some sports as well, where Indian batter Yashasvi Jaiswal has been in headlines for his superb double ton against England in the third test at Rajkot. In 6 innings against England in the ongoing test series, he's amassed a staggering 545 runs with back-to-back double centuries, stealing the spotlight. The second test in Vizag saw him score an impressive 209, followed by an unbeaten 214 not out in the third test at Rajkot. From selling street food in Mumbai to making it to the Indian cricket team, Jaiswal is international cricket's latest poster boy. His coach Jwala Singh has spoken to DD India. Take a look.
Very warm welcome, Mr. Jwala. First of all, tremendous performance by Yashasvi. I mean, so far he has been superb. 545 runs, back-to-back double centuries. England are saying another superstar in the making. Cricket pundits also feels good when people say this, and the way he has been playing, it's amazing.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me on Didi, and yes, I think he's doing well. And the way he's going, I think that is good for the Indian cricket. Like after the lot of players are going out from the team, like Cheteshwar Pujara, Ajinkya is not there. So I think Yashasvi is pulling trying to pull their boots. So I'm very, very happy for him. The way we work hard together, the way we planned from long time, last 9-10 years, and so we are getting the results. So we are really happy, and as a coach, I'm really happy and delighted. And the way he's playing, I'm very proud on his game.
Right, Mr. Jwala, also his temperament is something which has been noticed by everyone, and it stands out also. And also with the pace he has been playing, people have started saying that, he's another baseball, not baseball.
Well, yeah, when I saw him first, that is only one thing I was impressed in 2013 when I saw him playing, and from there I took him at my place and I coached him. I given him, I'm his legal guardian. I have treated him as my own son. And so I think when I saw him playing, that was only one case which I noticed, that this boy has a temperament to stay long on the wicket. And then later on, as he started getting the muscles, the power in the body, and the way I taught him about playing most of the cricketing shots like cover drive, cut shot, pull shot, flick shot, step out and hitting over the bowler's head. And I think he has the learn and develop the shot very well.
He has been setting an example for others, for the young students also. But the last question before we wind up, Mr. Jwala, what do you want to tell his fans who have been following him right from his IPL days, right from his struggling days? What message do you want to give to his fans?
I think it's too early to say anything about Yashasvi, but the way he has came this much, and I feel if he can continue this thing, like his determination, his hard work, his work ethics, I must say that he will play a long. He's having a long journey, and I always say his fans that just keep watching his game, enjoy his game. You have got a good new player who will entertain you for the longer time.
We all hope that he continues the same way, the way he has been playing in the current series. Thank you, Mr. Jwala. Thank you for giving us your precious time.
Thank you.
Yes, we all hope that and pray that he continues in the kind of form that he is right now. Yashasvi Jaiswal. Now, that's all we have for the moment in this edition of DD India Live. But before we go, British luxury brand Burberry's catwalk show at London Fashion Week was a star-studded affair. Celebrities including model Cara Delevingne, rapper Little Sims and actors Olivia Colman and Barry Keoghan attended the event. Burberry's creative director Daniel Lee presented his third brief at London Fashion Week with an ode to the brand's outdoor heritage for the luxury house's autumn-winter 2024 collection.
Olivia, just coming around to your left, and Barry, and Jordan all the way over, and to your left-hand side, please. And just back to your left, please.
Get that straight here. Straight forward for me. Straight ahead. In the middle. Okay, straight.
Jamie. And eyes to your left. Back, eyes to your